9:36 here, Big 550 KTRS. Lots of talk here in St. Louis about the Rams, whether or not they're moving, going, are we building a new stadium, are we not building a new stadium. Not a lot of talk has been on, does Los Angeles actually want a team? Our next guest looked into that question. Emily Kaplan, a staff writer for Monday Morning QB on SI.com. Good morning, Emily. Emily, are you there?
Hello?
Hello, Emily. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I can hear you. Thanks for checking in. First of all, I love the idea for the story. And for a long time, I've heard people in L.A. say, anecdotally, that they don't want an NFL team because if they have an NFL team, then they're not going to be able to follow their team from Georgia or Florida or Seattle. It'll be harder for them to follow it because everything will be sucked up by the local team, and they like the fact that L.A. doesn't have a home football team.
Yeah, well, the story I did was totally anecdotal. This is not a scientific study. I talked to 100 different people of all different walks of life. But you touched on a really great point, that L.A. is a city of transplants. We found fans from almost half of NFL franchises out there, and they've become totally accustomed to every Sunday, watching their DirecTV package or going to a sports bar and watching whatever they want.
So when the Super Bowl comes along, the most watched television sport in the world, we can find all sorts of people who have no desire to watch the Super Bowl and don't even know who's playing. So, it's like half the country's not even paying attention, or three-quarters of the country's not even paying attention. So how did you go about finding these anecdotal comments from people? It's awful hard to sort of get a cross-section because there are so many people doing so many things in California.
Well, I have an editor who came up with the idea, and we kind of made this checklist, and we thought of all different kind of tropes of people in L.A., from, an A-list entertainer, and we got Jimmy Kimmel, who's kind of a big sports fan,
right?
Kind of a struggling actor or a B-list actor. We thought of, let's get a bus driver, a barista, someone who works in reality TV, someone who's keeping up with the Kardashians. And we also wanted to find sports fans, so we kind of sought out different types of people, but I also just kind of went in different neighborhoods and just talked to, whoever I found, and just to get their pulse.
The overarching comment, or the underlying comment, in all of them, I think, was traffic. Nobody wants an NFL team if it's going to cause more traffic.
Absolutely. L.A., perhaps more than any other city, is kind of defined by log jams. I spent almost a week out there, and I was ready to pull my hair out. It's bad. And so if there's anything that can make traffic worse, and you guys know, any kind of big sporting event can really clog things up, and their freeways aren't really apt to handle all of that. So it'll make traffic worse, and people just don't want the inconvenience. Also,
I think your story, Emily Kaplan from SI.com, your story touches on a point of view in which I think the NFL is well aware of this, and it's sort of this underlying problem, and that is it's much more fun to watch a football game at home than it is to go to the stadium.
Right, and this is something the NFL is battling, across all franchises, is how can we get fans to keep coming to the stadiums when, there's no Wi-Fi, or it's expensive, or, it's a really big hassle and loud, and it's just so much easier to watch at home. So one of the ideas posed to me by someone pretty close to kind of this negotiations and building of a team is, to get people to come, you're going to need to make this a destination. You're going to need to look at something like Jerry World down in Dallas as an inspiration of something that people are going to want to see because it's an experience.
I know that's what they say, but and you mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned it or you quoted somebody as saying, is looking through Eric Dickerson's goggles. I'm not so sure I want to sit in traffic and wait online all day to go look through Eric Dickerson's goggles.
Well, the idea for that was that, if you have a family of 5, and say you can't afford to take them to the game, so you don't want to take them on Sundays, you're going to want to create a stadium that people are going to want to come to any day of the week. And, hey, it's a Thursday and it's summer, and let's take our kids to L.A. Ramland. And I'm sorry, you guys probably hate when I say L.A. Rams, but and let's ride this roller coaster and check out the museum where you can try on Eric Dickerson's goggles and this and that. And say there's tourists coming to L.A. and they would pick off 4 stops on their trip: Rodeo Drive, the Santa Monica Pier, the Hollywood sign, and then also LA Ramland.
Yeah. You also brought up, I thought was really interesting, you remind people why the Rams left in the first place.
They had a terrible time trying to fill the seats, and I want to point this out, is that there was an overwhelming theme of apathy that I found in people that I talked to. They just either don't care or just don't want a team. But there is a strong, small population, but very vocal and very passionate, of Rams fans who feel very disgruntled when they left. Those were the fans that showed up at that last game when nobody else did. Those are those fans who got really upset when Georgia Frontiere moved the team, and she did it because, attendance was bad. The local politicians weren't going to help her build a new stadium, which they desperately needed, and she just kind of wanted to change.
And so I think even though your story is 100% anecdotal, you do sort of bring up the fact that just because LA is going to get a team, or assuming they're going to get a team, and assuming it's the Rams, there's no guarantee that it's going to be a success in terms of attendance and in terms of attention, because we're pulled in so many different places, so many different ways, so many other teams. They're one of, 13, 14 different sports entities in Los Angeles. There's no guarantee they're going to be a success there.
The same problems that plagued LA football teams in 1994, why both of them left at the same time, the Raiders were there and the Rams, none of those problems have changed. If anything, they've gotten worse. So to look at, can it be different? Is history doomed to repeat itself? You're inclined to say, yes, nothing has changed. And while we found this, fan apathy, if there's a winning team, people will come. If there's an experience, people will come if they build good community relations. And at the other hand, this is another aspect of it, the NFL, they're not necessarily concerned as much with regular ticket sales. They just want to sell suites and luxury boxes and sponsorships, and they might be able to do that, keep the team alive. But that doesn't necessarily mean they can keep the fan base afloat.
So everyone talks about the ratings, and everyone says that, we need a team in L.A. for the ratings. But the question is, how many more people in Los Angeles are going to watch NFL football? Okay, so you're gonna watch the Rams if they're in LA, but I was already watching the Jets and living in LA, so I'm just changing what team I'm watching, but I'm still watching.
That's a great point. And look, in the 20 years since football left Los Angeles, NFL ratings have exponentially grown, multiplied. So it's not necessarily that the NFL needs the LA market to kind of, keep improving.
Right. They have the LA market. They just don't have a local team diverting the money from the LA market. Maybe there's some local funds that they're not getting. But in terms of the national broadcasts, everyone's still watching just as many games. They're just
exactly
right. It's a really interesting take and a really interesting look. Emily Kaplan, our guest, she's a staff writer for Monday Morning Quarterback on SI.com, Peter King's world famous, blog that started, and now it's a whole cottage industry.
It's a microsite.
Yeah, it's a site. It's
a little fancier than blogs.
All right, there you go. Fair enough. He's under his own pressure because what did I hear? He now wants the NFL to wait until after the season to punish Tom Brady.
That's one of his ideas that he posted out, which it's a smart one if you're looking at kind of due process and doing things the right way of taking a year to investigate what exactly this PSI and air pressure and what all of this is before we make a kind of rash decision. We know the NFL is not making a rash decision. They're taking their due time already. Yeah.
The article is great, Emily Kaplan, and you can find it at MMQB, Monday Morning Quarterback, on SI.com. So wrap this up for me. What's the reaction been to this story? Even though it's anecdotal, and even though it's, you can be criticized for cherry picking or, finding people who sort of fits your hypothesis. What's been the reaction in Los Angeles and around the country after posting this story?
You always hear from the vocal minority who be very vocal on Twitter in the comment section. But I will say, I'm from New Jersey. I went to a Big Ten school. I have no West Coast affiliation whatsoever. I have no horse in this race. So I went out there with a really open mind, not knowing about the climate. And I really believe that this is a temperature. And what I've found of what people have responded to is, you know what? None of these responses are surprising. Or, yeah, that sounds about right. This kind of seems like LA. So I think I think kind of how I summed it up. There's a large, overwhelming theme of apathy. They've been kind of teased for 20 years of, is there going to be a team, is there not? And if they come, they have to kind of overcome that to be successful.
You've also shown Los Angeles football fans that they can have a great time sitting at home eating chicken wings with their buddies on their fantasy football pages. Why do I want to go spend all this money somewhere else? It's just easier to do it this way. So they've created their own problem in a sense.
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you how many people describe their Sunday routines to me and saying, this sounds so great. Why would I want to give this up and, give up half my paycheck just to sit in a stadium all day with no Wi-Fi, can't check my fantasy, see a crappy product if they're not good.
Right. What's your Big Ten school?
I went to Penn State.
Oh, I'm a Big Ten guy myself.
Okay.
Nebraska.
Oh, a new Big Ten guy.
No. My degree is just as valuable as your degree. None of this new, old stuff.
We're new too, so.
All right.
Rutgers. We can get on Rutgers.
Relatively new. Yeah, there you go. Okay, good. All right. Jets or Giants in Jersey?
I grew up a little bit of a Giants fan, but kind of desensitized since I covered the NFL.
Yeah, you've destroyed your hobby. Now it's a job.
Yeah.
Emily Kaplan, staff writer for Monday Morning Quarterback on SI.com. An interesting story about does LA even want a team? Emily, great job. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. 9:48. Traffic, weather is done. We'll come back and wrap things up here. Big 550 KTRS. But first,